Over the past week, the trade war between the US and China has scared markets and spooked investors. More talks are due to take place next month, but the pain for farmers and consumers could get even worse in the meantime. And what about the fallout for global markets? For more, I spoke with former Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd, who's now president of the Asia Society. Thank you for joining us. Just how dangerous is the intensifying US-China trade war for the global economy?
It's a real danger. If you already look at the impact of the trade war on global market sentiment and the fact that trade, because of pressures of protectionism, both in the US-China trade war and more broadly, is now dragging against economic growth, there is a real prospect that this thing could have a negative effect, in fact pushing some economies into recession.
And do you see any prospect at all for the US and China reaching a resolution? They're due to talk next month.
Yes, there is grounds for optimism about reaching an outcome still. I may be in the minority on this, but the reason I have that view is because it's in the underlying deep economic interests of both presidents for this to be brought about. Trump wants to get re-elected next year. He needs a strong economy. And secondly, Xi Jinping has already got weak domestic growth because of pre-existing domestic economic policy settings. How do you bring it about? Well, the United States is going to have to concede on a few things. Its positions on retaining tariffs, for example, after an agreement comes into force. China is going to have to honour its undertakings on technology transfer, as well as on patent protection and IP protection, as well as some commitment in terms of future state subsidy. And then the final magic of the deal will lie on how much the Chinese agree to put into a purchasing order for American goods to shrink the bilateral trade deficit to the president's satisfaction.
But are we seeing the fallout from the failure to get a deal so far affecting not just global economic stability, but also foreign policy too, everything from Iran to North Korea?
Well, what's gone wrong so far in these trade negotiations is less to do with the competence of the negotiators than it has to do with the continuing political overlay of external commentary. But look, when you start to see breakouts in various parts of the globe, we begin to raise a question about whether the rest of the world believes that the United States of America is continuing to act as a global policeman or not. Or are we seeing a bunch of national actors now concluding that they've got free rein within their own local domains?
Now, you're a China expert. Is it your bet that the Chinese are playing the long game and think that President Trump will fold?
I think the Chinese bottom line is that they'd like a deal. Chinese growth is slowing. The party's legitimacy hangs on continuing to grow the economy, but more importantly, grow living standards and making sure that there are jobs available for university graduates each year. And I think that's where Xi Jinping would like to land. But if the political price is pushed too high by the political management of these negotiations by the President of the United States, then the bottom line is, I think, the Chinese will say, well, what's there to lose? The Americans are going to change the position in the future on the drop of a hat. And secondly, therefore, why don't we just dig in for the long term and see what happens at the next presidential elections? That's a danger. I think it's in both countries' interest to conclude this year before Thanksgiving.
Kevin Rudd, thank you so much for being with us.
Good to be with you.